Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Ticket Tuesday. I'm your host, Ronan Time HD. So yeah, this is going to be a great time. Hey guys, welcome back to our episode of Ticket Tuesday, Sunday edition. I'm your host, Ronan Time HD, and this week we watched The Creator, the new Gareth Edwards film of Rogue One fame. This is a new cyberpunk film, and there are not many cyberpunk films, so this movie already gets a point for having a cyberpunk aesthetic. It's super unappreciated and it deserves more things, just in general. But I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really enjoyable, and I really thought the commentary was really strong. And overall, it was just a very powerful movie. And it did have a lot of very emotional moments in it. While I did not bawl my eyes out, I still got emotional, you know? I was like, man, that's sad. Like, I acknowledged it was sad, but yeah. Before I go on a whole tangent why I like this movie, I'll tell you why I like this movie and more back at the house.
What do you want, sweetie?
For robots to be free.
Guys, welcome back to an episode of Ticket Tuesday, Sunday edition. I am your host, Ronan Time HD, and this week we watched The Creator, written and directed by Gareth Edwards, starring John David Washington and Madeline Una Voiles. I believe I'm saying that correctly. This film is a cyberpunk drama action film. And it's about, you know, the creation of AI and the advancement of it, and to the point of where, you know, what is the meaning of being alive? You know, what is a person? That's kind of the whole thing about this movie. And I will get into that, but real quick, I will summarize the story as spoiler-free as possible, because I do recommend this film. I do recommend you to watch it. But I will try to be as spoiler-free as possible in this review, if completely spoiler-free. And so basically the story is, the gist of it is there is this guy by the name of Joshua, and he lost his wife. You know, his wife died. Well, his wife died, and the whole reason is because he was actually an undercover, like, agent, undercover, like, insider in this village that was actually inhabited by humans and AI. And the AI, if you don't know, in this movie, they've advanced so far to the point where they're, like, indistinguishable from a real person, where they basically are people in the way that they act, in the way that they do things. They're just machines, right? Instead of being living and breathing, you know, they're all wires and programming, but it really, well, actually, I'm not going to get into the philosophical stuff right now. It's basically, that's the gist of what the AI are, and in the midst of that, in his undercover thing, the military bad guys, well, the military guys, they invade, you know, they do a raid, and they didn't tell him, and he's like, stop the raid. Basically, everything goes wrong, right, on his side at least, and they drop some bombs with like a giant weapon of mass destruction called Nomad, and it is said to kill his wife, like you assume that. And then, as the movie goes on, eventually, he is convinced into doing this mission to find a secret weapon that the AI have that could change the tides of the war that they're having with the humans and AI. And the humans being humans, they're thinking, oh, this is the end of mankind, it's the end of everything, right? Being super dramatic, like we always are. And then the film is, after he finds the weapon, the whole film is kind of him, you know, having a change of heart about the AI and trying to protect the girl who is the weapon, I did not specify, is a girl. She's an AI, but she's like in the body of like a 9-year-old girl. But she has like all the power. Like eventually if she gets strong enough, she could control all the technology, like all technology at once on the planet. And maybe even outside of it. Like, she is super powerful, right? And the film, as I said, is about Joshua, you know, warming up to her, and eventually, you know, like, taking care of her, right, and protecting her. And that's basically the spoiler-free gist of the film. Now, you might have heard earlier in that, whole synopsis that the AI, are so intelligent to the point where they're indistinguishable from humans, and they just look like machines. Well, I think this film really, delves deep into the philosophy of what does it mean to be alive, right? Is it flesh and blood, or is it more than that? Because even recently, people have started to wonder that even saying that being alive doesn't necessarily mean you need to be this, right? Being a machine, you could still be alive. Artificial life could be a thing, and it is kind of already on its way to being that, right? To the point where AI might eventually be indistinguishable from humans, right? And that's the whole idea of this film, is what happens once we get to that point, right? Like, what would happen? And most likely, being the planet Earth and being humans, we'd probably discriminate against them. We'd probably, create a whole line of, anti-AI. We'd probably come up with some very choice words to call them, being humans. And we'd probably just be absolutely terrible to them. And probably the worst part is they'd probably be the most abused people, probably, if not the most abused people in history. And I'm not trying to be insensitive by saying that, but it's probably true. Because they're not safe from anybody, right? Because they're machines, and it's hard to say. It's really hard to talk about, because it's hard to say if they would. It's like the discussion of them being alive would be a real discussion, and this film really gets into that, because they act like people, right? They basically are people, but just because they don't have blood flowing through veins, they don't have flesh, they don't have any of these things, we don't see them as people, we just see them as programming. We see them as just a machine, expendable, basically. They're basically just nothing. Just garbage, scrap. And this movie, as I said, goes into that and how that's not the case. And I really like the whole idea of it, because honestly, you could see both sides, but obviously one is more right, but you can kind of see where they're coming from on the other side, because it's hard to really determine what AI is at this point, because we've advanced them so much to where they've been self-aware, but, I don't know, it's just really interesting. It's an interesting, interesting topic to talk about, and that if AI get advanced enough, and I also really like how in this movie, also this is a little spoiler here, so if it's not major, but it is pretty big deal at the point of the movie, so if you don't want any spoilers for this specific part, go watch the movie, then come back. Alright, so basically in the movie, the war between humans and AI started because the humans said that the AI dropped a nuke on LA. They dropped the nuke on LA, right? And they blamed it, obviously, on the AI. The AI did it. They went rogue. They're trying to make us humans go extinct. They're trying to replace us, right? And in New Asia, which I'm guessing is Asia united as one. It's one country, I'm assuming. I'm not sure. But anyway, in New Asia, that's where most of the AI are, occupied, right? That's where, all of them are living, because that's, where they're only place that they're accepted, right? And throughout, until this point, this revelation point in the movie, you assume that the AI actually did bomb LA. They did go rogue. But then there's an AI that you actually see at the beginning of the movie. He's talking to the main character, and he's basically saying that we didn't bomb LA. The humans did. Not that they didn't do it on purpose. They did it to human error. It was a mistake. But instead of taking responsibility, they leaned on the only thing they could. They blamed us, right? They used us as the fall guys, not just because they didn't want to take the blame for such a catastrophe, but they didn't like us to begin with, right? We were expendable, right? They could do the big, bad, evil AI uprising, right? And everybody could have a bad guy to hate, right? And that the US are the good guys, right? And I think that's really interesting because I'm not saying that that one for one would happen, but something along those lines could happen where, like, a military, not even just the US, like any country, like big, powerful country, could accidentally make a huge mistake that would be catastrophic, not just for their country, but for their reputation. And instead of taking the blame, because honestly, why would they take the blame? Again, it would ruin their country's reputation, and they just look like idiots. So, of course, they would blame somebody else to make them look like the victims. And they could use it as an excuse, because, they didn't like them to begin with. And as an example, I don't usually get very political on this channel, but it's just kind of the truth here. When 9/11 happened, catastrophic, terrible event, right? But they used that as an excuse to invade Iraq, when Iraq had nothing to fucking do with it. But we used it because people were in a vulnerable point at this time. A lot of people had lost family members, lost friends, close people to them, and they used that as a crutch to do something they've wanted to do for a long time, but now they have an excuse to do it that people at the time, being emotionally vulnerable, would be like, yeah, fuck them, invade them, right? Even though they had nothing to do with it. It could be the same thing in the movie to where, we made a mistake, we were stupid, we accidentally dropped a bomb on LA, and, we have a perfect fall guy. The thing that we use for everything now. AI just run everything, right? So you can blame them because they run everything. So you can assume, oh, they went rogue. They attacked us. Now we should attack them. We should avenge LA. They have a reason to get rid of them, the people that they already didn't like. So it's accurate. Yeah, they're using people's fears against them, right? Because when people are afraid of something, they're more liable to, support something. They're more liable to be gullible, right? If they're more scared because, the government could use their fear against them to attack these people that they're trying to make them scared of, which would drive support for the government and so on. It's actually, this movie isn't really just a commentary on AI, it's also a commentary on the US government and how it operates. Now, I'm not saying that the US government is the worst government of all time. I'm not. Every single government has their flaws, and I mean every single government. There is no perfect government on the planet. But anyway, not trying to get too political here, reviewing a movie. But yeah, the US government basically, so it gives also another excuse to, basically they can fall on them again because, the US government invaded Iraq and they're like, oh, we're not in war with this country. We're just trying to bomb or attack the people that are hiding in this country. But in reality, we're still killing people that live in that country, and in the movie, they do the exact same thing. They say, oh, we're not in war with New Asia. We're just gonna bomb the villages and, intimidate and attack the people who are protecting the AI. Totally different. Totally different. And I'm not saying that the AI in this movie are similar to the terrorists, but I'm just saying, bit of an observation. And obviously, when I'm saying this, I'm not trying to make this come across as me comparing the sympathetic AI in this movie to terrorists, right? That's not what I'm trying to say here. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is not even about the whole 9/11 thing. While that is a part of my analysis, I am trying to basically make the point of how this movie kind of says, and it is kind of true in real life, the US just kind of do whatever the fuck they want. And say what you want about the US government, they kind of just have always done whatever the fuck they want. That's kind of how the US government operates, it cares about itself. And, that's how the US government operates in this movie. And in the movie, you really grow to hate, you grow to hate them because of what they're doing. Because that that the AI in this movie are sympathetic. That they say when they win the war, they're not going to do a damn thing. They're not going to invade the US. They're not going to, bomb the US. They're just going to live. Right? They just want to live in peace without being in war all the time, but, the US is so hell-bent on, just eradicating the people they don't like, they'll do fucking anything to do it. They'll kill anybody or imprison, abuse, like torture anyone that gets in their way. And again, I'm not trying to be all anti-America here. It's just kind of the truth, if you didn't know already. Like, I'm not saying I hate America. I don't. But, getting a little off topic. But anyway, I just think that this movie is really well executed with its philosophies and its takes, and I think it's very interesting to get into all that. Now, getting away from the whole, philosophy, politics, all that nonsense, we will get into the other, film parts of this film. And I don't mean, the acting, story, whatever. You guys know about that already. I mean the comparisons that people have made about this movie to, films like Terminator, Matrix, and other, like Blade Runner, other sci-fi, cyberpunk type films. And obviously I can see the similarities, right? You got, the AI becoming self-aware, and, not necessarily, the humans made threw the first rock, and then the robots were like, well, fuck you guys, we're gonna fight back, right? Instead of just keeling down and taking it. I think that there are similarities with Terminator and the Matrix. And the Blade Runner similarities are, the robots, being more human than the humans. There's kind of that philosophy. There's fighting for their freedom, like in Blade Runner, like in the other movies. It's a very big similarity. And even though at the beginning of the movie that was a little distracting, I think as the movie went on, I believe that, me personally, I wasn't distracted by the similarities, even though they were still there. And the movie is definitely not perfect. I definitely did enjoy it, and I do think that, obviously, sci-fi films, there are so fucking many of them. And movies like this, like AI movies, there's only so much you can do. Right? There's only so many stories you can come up with, like an AI uprising or an AI revolt. And, I think, the AI revolt story, obviously you're going to take inspiration from other things, but this movie wasn't exactly a ripoff of those movies. I think it actually took the inspiration pretty well, and it made it its own thing. And as I said, I think it did the whole cyberpunk, the whole, AI uprising, well, AI, more like AI, revolution, really well. I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie. I think it was very, very engaging and very gripping. The film was very gripping. It was very dramatic, as you might say, very, edgier seat. And it was just overall very, in my opinion, very well put together. I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I would highly, highly recommend it if you're a fan of, sci-fi films, cyberpunk films, for the few that there are. And I just, I would recommend this film. If you're looking for a gripping and intense, thriller, this has got that. I would definitely recommend it for that. And, I think I'd give it a rating of, an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I've said all I need to say. I think I've said my piece. So, guys, if you like this video, share your friends, subscribe, notifications on. Comment down below if you liked it. But, you guys know how it goes. I didn't mean to say that. What I really meant to say was, if you guys hated this video, unsubscribe, doesn't Tim change me in the comments. And I've been on Tim HD. Off to do some freedom fighting. That's a weak throw. That's a fact. And it's damn true.